I am always thinking of how do I portray this event in the right way so that I show just enough for people to be interested, but not enough to give everything away. I've seen a lot of other clubs start doing the same thing where they're hiring someone full time internally, as opposed to what they used to do, which was just hiring photographers for big events. But I see a lot of mistakes that are being made where people just document the entire event and put up a
Mm.
2 to 3 minute video of everything that happened. Where, that gets very boring for someone out there watching. And it also reveals a bit too much, in my opinion. Sometimes people don't need to see everything. They just need to see the highlights and, really, what really is going to pop out at them and attract them to the club. The rest of the stuff is just fluff.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition, your essential resource for mastering the unique challenges of social media marketing in the hospitality industry authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode we dive deep into the real issues, from evolving guest expectations to standout social campaigns, sharing insights and strategies you can put to work. Let's get started with today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition, where we're digging into the challenges, successes, and stories of social media and community professionals in the industry, just like you. Subscribe to gain valuable insights that you'll be able to apply to your own work and social presence from each and every episode. Now, every social media manager knows the pressure of sharing engaging content. But what if your job required you to promote a luxury destination while protecting the privacy of members who pay hefty dues specifically for that privacy? What if every photo needed careful consideration, every caption had to be perfectly crafted, and every post had to balance marketing goals with member confidentiality? That's exactly what social media professionals in private clubs and exclusive resorts face every single day. You're tasked with growing awareness and attracting prospects, yet your most impressive moments often can't be shared. Your most engaging content might be sitting on your phone, unusable because it includes members who value their privacy. And unlike other hospitality venues, you can't just encourage guests to tag your location and share their experiences. If you're nodding your head right now, you're going to love today's conversation. We're sitting down with someone who navigates these challenges every day. Gideon Heller. For the past 7 years, Gideon has managed social media at Edison Reserve Country Club, one of Florida's most prestigious private clubs. With his background in professional photography and content creation, he's developed innovative ways to showcase luxury and exclusivity while respecting the privacy that members expect. Today, he's here to share his insights and practical strategies that you can apply to your own hospitality venue. Hey, Gideon, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So glad you're here. Could you start by just kind of walking us through your journey into private club social media management? What were some of the unique challenges that you discovered early on?
Yeah. So I guess my journey began with professional photography and content creation. Um, Initially, uh, I'm from Cape Town originally. I came over to the States about 10 years ago and got into hospitality at first. And I started a side business of photography and content creation. And over the years, it kind of transitioned into social media and storytelling. And when I got the opportunity to take it on full time at a private club, I saw that as a great opportunity to kind of expand on the skills that I had and take a different route and sort of be a brand ambassador or sort of that voice for a company. And so yeah, I guess my role kind of evolved to connecting with members and learning their preferences and sharing experiences. And it's been a learning experience over a long time where I kind of figured out as I went, what were the goals, and they changed along the way a little bit. Initially, it was targeting a younger demographic at the club. It was rebranding the entire sort of visual aspect of the club. When I started 10 years ago, we had a very old website. We had very little social presence. I don't think any country clubs were really on social media at that point. Um, and so it was kind of a new frontier, um, where I didn't have other clubs to look at for examples of what other people were doing. And so it's just been a one long experiment, really.
It's fantastic. Now, speaking of, the fact that it is a private club, how do you figure out what's your process for determining what it is that you're going to share, what's appropriate versus what should remain private?
Yeah, so I guess it comes down to just understanding what members' preferences are, kind of building relationships with them and understanding their comfort levels. Some members love being featured while others prefer discretion. And so I kind of focus on capturing the club's essence and sort of, promoting the experience of being a member at the club while staying away from too much, uh, highlighting or featuring specific people or any, private, divulging any private information, obviously. Don't use any full names, that kind of thing. So, it's really kind of it's an eye into the club life, for the outside world. Some of our content is capturing what's really going on, and then some of it is sort of a little bit of it is creating and kind of curating what's happening in order to showcase an experience that's harder to capture. So we want to always portray the club in the most luxurious way, and we do have a very high reputation in the club world, and so we kind of want to showcase that on our visual side and our social media, while still showing off the the fun side. And there's a lot that goes on at the club that you don't see from any of our social media, obviously. That's for the privacy of the members to enjoy.
Well, that's really fascinating because there's this unique challenge that you've turned into a benefit and a feature for yourselves, which is that because you have private members, that means you've got repeat customers that you can develop relationships with, right? And as you mentioned, some of them may be open to having their likeness shared and that sort of thing. Whereas, most of the hotels and other hospitality organizations we're talking to, Best Western, MGM Grand, and so on, they can't possibly, as a social media manager, develop relationships with the customers. That's just not going to happen. They're not going to get the same people coming into the same doors in their location over and over again. So that's amazing that you're doing that. As a real quick aside, which social channels are you focused on right now?
So I'm primarily focused on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We do have accounts on other platforms, but we don't really use them that much. Instagram is my main focus just because it's visual. I love the visual aspect just because it's so easy to tell a story. We do post a lot on LinkedIn too, because we have every now and then achievements and things and awards, and that's the best place for that kind of thing. And then, yeah, Facebook is where most of our members are. So we do kind of repurpose a lot of our Instagram content with a different narrative sometimes, or, different wording or grammar for Facebook. But yeah, I think my primary focus is Instagram because I do a lot of stories as well. So day to day sort of events, something that I don't want to focus too much on with a post that stays perpetually on our feed. I'll just create some stories throughout the day that can last 24 hours, and then if I want to, I can save it into a highlight.
That makes complete sense. In fact, I'll make sure folks listening, I have linked below in the show notes to all of Addison Reserve's channels, those key ones, because you're going to want to go and take a look at their Instagram in particular and see what Gideon's talking about with the type of photography and imagery and posting that he's referencing. But I'm wondering, how do you deal with members who choose to share their own photography and video content? Do you have any policies that you've put in place for that sort of activity?
We don't have any strict policies, but nothing rigid. But it's more about knowing our members and sort of communication within, internally. We haven't come across any issues of that really. We do get members posting things from time to time, and if it's good, I'll reshare it on our public page, on our stories, or I haven't really had any issues. Most of them don't do too much posting. Most of them are pretty private people. Um, and so, yeah, I haven't had too much issues with that at all in the past.
Yeah, I asked because I know, again, a lot of the hotels I've talked to in the past, UGC content is just gold to
Hmm.
them. We had Potter's Resort on the southeast side of England, for instance, who was just going on and on about how important that was to their business. And so it occurred to me, wow, I wonder if that's different for this kind of organization. It's glad to hear that you can't or you don't have any issues along those lines. But I'm wondering if you could share a time where maybe you did have some kind of a challenging situation regarding privacy versus promotion.
Well, I will say I have had a number of times where I've had something happen at the club, something that I thought was amazing and I really wanted to share, showcase on the social media. And I've either posted something and had a member reach out and say, "Hey, I'd rather not have that online," or I've reached out and asked them beforehand to check if it would be okay, which I usually tend to do. And so, yeah, I reached out and checked, and they'll either say, "Yeah, absolutely, go ahead," or "Nah, I'd rather not have that on there." But there have been times where I've had to sort of censor what I'm putting out, even though it would be amazing promotional material, just because the members involved would rather not have that on our social media.
That makes sense. So I'm assuming you're talking about like events that they might have, staged for themselves at the
Yeah,
club that probably look amazing. And you
exactly.
really would love to share that out. I can just imagine, as any kind of an event venue, someone puts on a terrific wedding or some other kind of thing. You definitely want that everywhere and showing people just how awesome the entire venue can look when someone puts their effort and money into it. But yeah, if it's private, it's private. So how do you maintain engagement and you keep creating compelling content while you're working within all of these private club constraints? It sounds maddening to me.
Right. So that's a difficulty. And, you know, it's something that I've kind of just been battling over a long time and figuring out and learning as I go. Um, there's a lot of sort of creative strategies to uh, keeping our content engaging without giving away too much or showing too much. Um, I tend to focus on amenities, the events, the staff, and focus on the members sort of appropriately, where I can show, members having fun at a party in quick glimpses and videos, sort of laughter, smiles, and things like that, where it's not really, showing their face for too long or, without asking them. As sometimes we do have a feature or something on a member where we can, especially if they share it on their own social media, then I know, okay, they're fine with it being out there and I can repost that or ask them if I can do my own take on it and reach out and do a story or something. But really it's the use of storytelling and uh, behind the scenes content even is pretty engaging. People like to see what goes on inside the kitchen or in the golf shop, what's happening, what new stuff do we have in the shop. But we've started having some of our staff even doing fashion shows of the golf clothes, for
Mm.
example. It's kind of, yeah, it comes down to showcasing the club's amenities and lifestyle, but creating a narrative that the members are proud of without infringing on their personal privacy.
Leaning on members is super smart, I think, because not only is that helping to arm you with great social media content, that's introducing more and more of the staff to members and prospective members through your social channels, which is going to just humanize the brand, which every brand should be doing. Folks, we're talking with Gideon Heller about the unique challenges that private organizations like country clubs face when trying to market themselves. And I've got several more questions you can't miss. But first, a challenge that faces every organization is that of determining success and generating reports. And for that, we've got you covered.
Actually can't say enough great things about the reporting with Agorapulse. I feel like that is my job security every month. My clients aren't that active on social media, which is why they have me manage their profiles for them. And when they get that report, it verifies that they're making a good investment.
The metrics downloads are so simple and easy to read, and it really helps me show where we are doing things right on social and where we need to improve.
So I think one of the main reasons why we decided to move to Agorapulse is because it's a more comprehensive, integrated tool for all of our marketing needs. So rather than what we have had to do historically with Sprout, which is use certain parts of that platform that work really well and then supplement it with other outside tools, by moving to Agorapulse, we were able to keep all of that into one technology platform, which is not only a time saver, but it also makes sure that our analytics and all of our reporting's on point because we're pulling all from the same source.
It's a really great platform for agencies. It makes it really easy to manage, but gives me really, really, really robust information that actually helps me develop better strategies for my clients and better plans of action.
So Gideon, like I mentioned a moment ago, I really believe, and I thought that's great, that you're showing off your existing staff in the club environment. I think that's a great strategy for attracting prospective members. What are some other strategies that you guys have used that don't compromise that exclusive nature of the club?
Really, a lot of it is showing the beauty of the club. We have a lot to offer here. It's a beautiful property. The golf course looks amazing at sunrise, at sunset. There's birds and nature outdoors. We have a lot of fun and amazing events that kind of showcase what's possible for potential members to enjoy. And so I think, potential members are drawn to the lifestyle. My kind of goal is to have someone see our Instagram or anything else, any other post we put out there and visualize themselves as a member and say, hey, I could be there having an amazing time with my family, playing golf, using the spa amenities, living in an incredible community of friendly people, and eating amazing food. And, we do that while still trying to maintain sort of the mystique of the club, and keeping that intact.
That sounds like a really challenging approach to storytelling. Have you found that to be a challenge, balancing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, I it's challenging and it kind of keeps my creative juices flowing
Yeah.
because I am always thinking of, you know, how do I portray this event in the right way so that I show just enough for people to be interested, but not enough to give everything away. And also, showcase everything. Since I've started, uh, uh, since I started in this position, I've seen a lot of other clubs start doing the same thing where they're hiring someone full time internally, as opposed to what they used to do, which was just hiring photographers for big events. And they've also, increased their social presence and things like that. But I see a lot of mistakes that are being made where people just document the entire event and put up a
Mm.
2 to 3 minute video of everything that happened. Um, where that gets very boring for someone out there watching, and it also reveals a bit too much, in my opinion. Sometimes people don't need to see everything; they just need to see the highlights, and really what really is going to pop out at them and attract them to the club. The rest of the stuff is just fluff. And so, yeah, I try to keep my content really short and sweet. I'm going for shorter and shorter reels, as you know. People's attention spans are getting shorter. I am targeting a relatively younger demographic for country clubs, that is. Whereas most other hotels or other people, other companies out there can target even younger audiences. Our demographics are 45 plus up to late 50s as far as our target audience, whereas our current membership is on the older side, predominantly 70 plus. And
Mm.
so, a lot of them are not even on social media. So, really it's when the families come down, we get a lot more engagement, and things like that. So
I love that you're really embracing kind of a film approach, right, to teasers and trailers where, a film's gonna create a trailer that's 30, 60 seconds tops, right? And they're just showing you quick hit, the most, relevant and interesting parts of the movie, obviously without revealing anything of real import. They're just there to, pique the emotion and psychological interest. So I love that you're approaching social media that way. You mentioned you're active on Instagram. You're creating beautiful stories and posts on Instagram, repurposing to Facebook, and then you're posting to LinkedIn as well. How are you measuring the success of those channels?
so really when it comes down to ROI and success in that regard, I'm kind of lucky in that aspect where it's not a major focus for the decision makers, the board of governors, and the management here at the club. Because we are a private club with membership that lives on property, you need to own a home in order to be a member. We only have a certain number of homes for sale. It's really about long-term branding success and engagement. So, the way I measure success is looking at the engagement, seeing how people are reacting and enjoying our content, how much they're engaging with the content. And I see that as the main measure of success for me because my goal is brand image and long-term, brand growth. Whereas I'm not converting immediate sales, I'm not selling homes. That's the realtors' jobs. And we leave that up to our real estate agents, and they have their own marketing channels. And so we have a realty aspect on our website. We have a realty, but we don't showcase houses on our Instagram, for example. We're all about the lifestyle, and we're all about the experience of being a member.
Terrific. And aside from beautiful sunsets and chirping birds, what are the tools that you found most valuable to actually manage your social media presence for a private club like this?
So as you know, I'm primarily focused on like professional content. So I have a full array of cameras and,
Mm,
360 cams and GoPros and lenses and drones. And so those are my main tools for creating the content. As far as distribution and things like that, I do use a social media scheduler. Um, but I found that, especially recently, it's just more efficient for me to post natively and immediately.
sure.
Um, so, I started off using Loomly, but, in the past year or two, I've actually moved away from that and I just post natively to the platform, whenever I have content going out, which is ideally 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes more in busy season. But yeah, as far as the tools goes, I use two mirrorless cameras with a whole assortment of lenses. Um, I use a FPV drone. I use a regular DJI drone, cinematic drone. And yeah, as I mentioned, a few other smaller cameras that I use to prop up in for time lapses in the kitchen or, a 360 time lapse at our New Year's Eve street fair, for example. So I think it's really about keeping the scenes and the shots dynamic and engaging visually. That's the main thing. Getting something that people are not used to seeing, something that's different.
I think that's a really smart use of resources, frankly. A lot of the folks that I've talked to, they'll use an iPhone and maybe that's fine. But when you're in a situation like you are, a gorgeous property, a high-end luxury experience, you're going to want to invest in the kind of gear that's going to allow you to capture the best possible photographs and videos. So applaud you for that. Are there any other resources or communities that you turn to for staying current with whether it's social media or like you talked about, there's other folks in the country club business um, keeping up with their kind of best practices?
Yeah, so I mainly get most of my information from just watching the market and seeing what other clubs are doing on social media. I do, follow all our competitors, if you will, or other clubs around the country, and I just kind of stay abreast of what's happening. I do get a lot of ideas and inspiration from other pages, like food pages, that
Mm,
do amazing visuals. Sometimes it's stuff that I really don't have the time or the resources to do, but I still get amazing ideas from pages that film food content full time, for example, where they have incredible video and visuals of food making and things like that. Um, but yeah, other than that, I've got a couple of communities on LinkedIn. I can't remember the names off the top of my head right now, but yeah.
that was a really amazing point you just made. I want to underscore it for our listeners. You guys, if you're managing hospitality, you're managing social media for hospitality brands, think about the specific kinds of content that you can create and go out and follow pages that are focused on that specific kind of content. Like you said, there's food. You guys could find event venues, all kinds of other
Golf.
organizations out there. Yeah, golf, exactly. And you can get lessons and inspiration from them that you won't see your competitors doing because their competitors aren't doing this. So fantastic tip, Gideon. This has been so interesting for folks who might want to reach out and learn more about you and the work that you're doing. Where can they go to find you?
They can follow, well, the club's Instagram is Addison Reserve CC. My personal Instagram, where I post behind the scenes sometimes and more personal creative work, is G Dariel, Dariyal. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Gideon Heller.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Gideon. Thanks all of you for listening. We will have all those links in the show notes as always, but that's all the time we've got for today, friends. Don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition on Apple and drop me a review. I'd love to know what you think of the show and this episode. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Social Pulse Podcast Hospitality Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution. Discover more at agorapulse.com. Enjoyed the episode? Please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Your feedback drives our content.